Research shows that being perceived as a leader is essential to being promoted into a leadership role. Regardless of our experience, lacking a certain presence can ruin our chances for top jobs. Leaders are expected to be persuasive. We're supposed to project gravitas and look confident and polished all the time. Most everyone in the C-level suite already knows how to package themselves. So how did they learn that? Were they born with special skills? I don't think so. I think they know how to channel their own best natural talent to their own greatest advantage. Powerful people know when to put their game face on. They know how to accentuate their positives and minimize their weaknesses. People who influence others know appearance is often reality. They make darn sure they know how people see them. A great example of this was in 1960. I wasn't there then, but I heard. It was the very first time that we televised our presidential debates. Many people, of course, still listened on their radios. And those people came away saying, Nixon won. But almost every single person who watched it on television saw John Kennedy. They saw how young and vibrant he was. They came away saying, that man's going to be president. John Kennedy's persona, the way he carried himself, had a lot to do with that election. This happens all the time. Tall men are seen as more powerful and authoritative. Pretty people are generally viewed as more trustworthy. Petite people are mistaken for being meek and timid. And I'm not saying it's right. And I'm also not saying that if we're competing with someone who is taller or prettier or younger than we are, that we should just bag it and go home. Absolutely not, no. That's when we tap into our own inner ninja, we learn the play, and we get in the game. No one's perfect. Powerful people don't sweep their vulnerability under the carpet. Instead, they harness it as a way to connect with other people in a way that's real and authentic. They turn that into power. I know a lot about power. I have been on both ends of the power spectrum. Like a lot of people we'll hear from tonight. I came from what seemed like a very normal middle-class life. We lived in the suburbs. We had a nice house, had a housekeeper named Faye. My mom and stepdad had great jobs, and I went to private school. But there was something very different going on behind closed doors. My mom would do things like go make dinner in the kitchen when she knew that my stepfather was molesting me in the living room. I remember, I think I was 12. It was a hot summer night. We were driving home, and my mother suddenly pulled over on the side of the highway. And like a product in a business transaction, she dragged me out of the car, and she pulled me up to a semi. She shoved me up the steps where the driver was waiting for me with his pants down. I know, I'm sorry. I should have come with a warning label. It's interesting, though, that I was taught that my purpose in life was to be a tool and to be used by others without complaint, regardless of how it made me feel. In fact, what I thought and felt was irrelevant. They were happy to tell me what to think and feel. I was a thing. I wasn't even a person. For a long time, I saw myself that way. But interestingly, victimhood wasn't an option for me. I remember telling myself, the bad guys aren't going to win. I am not going to let them win, and that included my mom. Instead, I told myself I was going to bide my time until that day when I was in control. And when I was in charge of my life, I was going to show the world what I could do. I've made a lot of lemonade out of lemons. Something that abused people commonly learn is to be pleasers and to keep the peace. We learn to study people. We learn what their triggers are and how to keep them calm. Something else I learned was that appearance becomes reality. And that served me well, because when I ran away at 14 years old, I knew that was my play. Blend in, get along. It was shockingly easy to do. People just didn't want to get involved. So all I had to do at 14 years old was not make them look at anything that might make them uncomfortable. I acted like everything was fine. I played the game. I became the epitome of fake it till you make it. It worked for years. But finally, when I was 18 years old, I became so ill from all the physical damage that had been done to me, I couldn't fake it anymore. I couldn't continue to go to work and go to school. I had to stop. I had to dedicate time to healing my body. I had to accept that my past was beyond my control, but I could write a game plan for my future. And I knew that if I wanted to do that and if I wanted to have a future, that meant I had to forgive my mom. As much as I hated her for everything she had done to me, I found hate to be this gnawing, toxic, ugly thing. And if I wanted to heal, I had to replace that with something else, something like forgiveness, or at least peace. So I packed my bags and I moved across the country to Dallas, where she was living with her new husband. 2 months after I got there, I was in a major car accident. The universe was trying to tell me a lesson. The universe was trying to teach me that no matter how carefully I scripted my life, no matter how good my intentions were, I couldn't control the game and I couldn't control the other players in it. I could not make that woman act like a normal human being. I couldn't make her act like she loved me. She clearly resented being called to the hospital that night to identify me. And in her defense, I have to say it was really hard to do because there wasn't very much of my face left. I was really, really seriously injured. I was blinded. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. I couldn't feed myself. She was forced to take me home and look after me. It was a week or so after my accident when I finally was able to pull myself upright in bed. It was really hard to do because I had so many broken ribs. But they had just taken the first eye patch off my eye. I hoisted myself up. I asked for a mirror because I wanted to see the damage. I took a look, and I can't begin to describe to you how mind-blowing it is to not recognize your own reflection. My face couldn't reconcile that that was me. I mean, I had survived this horrific car accident, but I was not the same person. It wasn't long after that she made it really clear that I was an inconvenience, and she wanted me out of her house. And as much as I was inconvenient, I think the issue was really more that I wasn't pretty anymore. So I had no value for her. I had no functional utility. Trauma, as we all know, can be incredibly clarifying. Mine certainly was. And had I not been hit by that drunk driver, and had he not rearranged my face for me, I would have never literally looked in the mirror and understood how other people looked at me, how they saw me. In retrospect, I see it was one of the greatest gifts. When I could finally walk again, I took myself to the grocery store, with dragging my legs along like some sort of bride or Frankenstein, still had black stitches across my face, my eye was sewn shut. And this tiny little girl burst into tears and then ran to hide behind her mother because I was so hideous, I was terrifying her. Her mother, of course, was angry with me. And I started to see that strangers expected me to hide myself in shame. They expected me to be ashamed of my appearance because of how I made them feel. This was contrary to my entire life experience up to that point. I was used to the random stranger doing something nice for me. I thought that everyone occasionally experienced the random acts of kindness of a stranger. But I was learning that's not necessarily so. People tend to do random nice things for people they find attractive. It was quite the lesson in perspective. And perspective's a funny thing. Through new eyes, well, one anyway, I started to see how people really judge strangers by how they looked. And then I started to see a bigger plan for me. I started to understand that there was a way I could find actual success in the world beyond merely surviving it by influencing how people saw me. I realized that any success I was going to have was also going to hinge upon my finding the way to make wins for everyone that would in turn benefit me. I saw that when I made people happy, they were usually inclined to give me things that I need, and that made me happy. So the key for me was to learn what made them feel good, and to learn what I had to do to make them want to be around me. So I started doing deliberately what my whole life I had been doing reactively. I studied people, and I learned what it was that they did instinctively in response to other people. Like a game of chess, I would challenge myself to watch strangers and see what they might do several moves in advance. Manipulation is a strong but not altogether inaccurate word for what I started to learn to do. I got good at it. I became a ninja of human behavior. In business, I started to see that what's good for the company and good for its employees usually doesn't matter to most people. Most people I saw were unconsciously incompetent, and they didn't even know they were behaving badly as long as they were getting their needs met. As soon as I embraced that, I stopped getting all righteously indignant about stuff that frankly didn't matter, and I started making better business decisions for better outcomes. People basically just want to be around people they find successful and attractive and happy. Platitudes that I had thought all the while were kind of silly, like dressing for success, I started to embrace as probably pretty good ideas. I saw that when I looked successful, people wanted to work with me. Designer shoes were actually noticed and commented on by my clients. It didn't matter if I thought that was a silly waste of money. The shoes brought me business. On weekends, I occasionally hike with a group of my professional peers, and that's where I get half my business. On those days, shorts and sneakers are my uniform, because that's what brings me business. And interestingly, I found that when I'm out networking, the happier I am, or the happier I appear, the more business comes my way. So I have learned to laugh at every bad joke, smile like a Cheshire cat, pretty much all the time, because that's what brings me business. That's my play. I have been a realtor for a long time, decades now. I negotiate for a living. And among the greatest lessons that I have learned is that agents who have what my clients want are just people. They want to negotiate with someone they like, someone they think will get the deal done, and somebody who might be fun in the process. So, true story. I delivered an offer one time to someone I knew liked chocolate. I brought whiskey, I brought huge compliments on this guy's amazing business, and I got the deal. And then he later wrote a peer review saying I was one of the finest realtors he had ever worked with in his career. All I had to do was be nice and know what the play was for him. The beauty of traumatic events is that we can all learn from them. What we need to do is learn who we are and how others see us, and then harness how they see us to our greatest advantage. Control the narrative. We can all be charming. We can all learn from past failings and take that information and use it to connect with other people in a positive and productive way, like I'm hoping to do here tonight with you. Pain can be a beautiful lesson. We need to learn from it. We need to connect with it and touch it. I know when I did, I found my true self and I found my strength. I encourage everyone here to connect with their pain. Find yourself there. Then you'll find that you're stealthy and you'll be a ninja too.